Hi, my name is Amanda Tatro, and today I'm going to be going over how to set up a template in Adobe Design. The purpose of setting up a template is basically so that you have a document that is formatted in a certain way that you don't have to recreate it each time. You're basically going to have design elements that are going to stay permanent in the document. And maybe the text or images change. But outside of that, everything else stays the same. And the idea is that perhaps you can create like a newsletter for your employer. And they want everything to look the same. They just want the verbiage to change maybe on a monthly basis. And so this is a document that you could create and share with coworkers, and everything will kind of, the overall look and feel is going to stay the same between each month. So to get started, I created a document that's 8.5 by 11. Of course, you could use whatever you wanted. I set my margins, and it's only one page. So you could do this with multiple pages. The possibilities are endless of what you could do with this. And so you have a lot of creative freedom as far as this goes. But you can see here that I've got several text frames already created, and I've labeled them as far as what I want them to be. And then this text frame, not text frame, this frame you see here with a giant X on it, that's where an image is going to go. One of the most important things that you want to do when you're setting up a template is that you want to make sure that you label everything in your layers very clearly what they are. So you can see here, like this text frame here, I've got it labeled right top text frame, because I want it to be where somebody doesn't have to come over here on the little eyeball thing or the eye and click on it and try to figure out where things are at. I need it to be very clear. That way, if somebody comes behind me and needs to edit something, they can do it quickly. They don't have to guess where I've got things set. It's also great for yourself, because I'm not sure about you guys, but I don't always have a great memory. So for me, it's good to have things labeled. So this is just a bare basic one, and you could keep something this simple if you wanted to. But the idea is to set something up like this and then take it a step further and add in design elements. And you can see here like my cactus, my peace sign, and these little lines popping out. Those elements are going to stay there. Those are going to be permanent designs. I mean, of course, they don't have to be if you don't want them to be, but if you want to share this document and you want these things to stay permanent, you can put them in there. The other thing that you can see is that I have certain design elements, like this text frame here has these nice rounded corners. All these elements, and each one of these are the same way. They're rounded on their edge, but these are things that I want to stay the same. The other thing is my headline. It has a certain font that I want used. It has a certain spacing that I want to stay the same. And so the way we achieve this is by utilizing these tools that we've been learning in Module 2 about design automation. And that is these paragraph styles, these object styles, and then in some instances, the pre-flight. I have it set up to utilize that profile, that newsletter profile, so that there's certain elements that are going to get looked at. And I mean, you can see here, it says I have 27 errors. I mean, 27, that's a lot. But you can easily come in here and identify what's going on. So as I mentioned, your layers, they have to be well labeled, which you can see here. I have everything labeled out clearly of what is what. And so I'll show you, for example, right here, this headline here. If you come to the paragraph style on this, it's already highlighted the headline. And all I did was come in here and I set it up to have like that specific font, that specific style, which is regular. It's not bold or black or light. It's regular. But you could define however you want this to look, and those things are going to stay in place. You can define that you want that to stay in the center. My baseline shift is -14, and you can always, if you need to make those adjustments, you can. I have the preview checked so that we can see this. So if you look at the word headline, let me move this over. If I make this baseline shift adjustment, you're going to see those things move up. I'm just going to put those back. It looks like I actually have this paragraph style turned on for this little cactus too, because he's shifting around with us. And that's okay for right now. Again, that's just set to center, but you can come through here and you can make these changes. You could even change, I have it set to black, but you could change it to be whatever color you want it. Let's change it to this. See, that's simple, but I'm going to put it back to black because that's the way I like it. I'm going to hit cancel just in case any changes I made I didn't notice, but that's how you would set those. The other thing that was important to me as I was creating this document is this here is an image. And of course, I created this little image you see here in Adobe Illustrator. And you can label it replace with your image just to make it very clear to the next user that that's what's going on here. That's an image. But this is an object that I have, this little box. And so you can see here I have it labeled image. And the one thing that I noticed that you need to pay attention to if you're setting up a template for somebody else is this frame fitting option. It was automatically turned off when I first started working on this. So you want to make sure that's turned on, and you want to come in here and you want to make sure your crop is set to 0, because if it's not, then this is going to crop every time somebody drops an image in there. You can see that occurring, and we don't want that. You want somebody to start fresh with the image they intended to drop in there. The other thing to pay attention to is this fitting. Right now it's set to fill frame proportionately, but if I were to change this to fit content to frame, you can see it squishes it. So if you had it set to that, every time somebody would drop an image in here, it's going to get squished, and they're going to say, why is my image getting squished like that? You could change it to fit content proportionately if you want it to, and that's fine if you like that, but you notice that it doesn't fill the frame. And perhaps that's, that's better for you. Maybe you want it that way, and that's perfectly fine if you do. But just for this tutorial, I'm going to put it back to fill frame proportionally. And yes, it does kind of crop off her head, but it keeps the dialogue replaced with your image here, which I prefer. So that's something that I feel is really important when you're setting up a template, is to come in here and make sure you set that up and make the end user just have an easier time trying to fill this in. So I'm going to hit OK. Actually, I'm going to hit cancel just so any of the changes I made, that they're not, nothing happens to them. And again, we can utilize this. I'm going to go to paragraph styles here. You can utilize this information, these skills that we're learning, these paragraph styles and these automations to set these templates up. And so again, you could come in here and you could do, you could set the font that you want the user to stick with and the size. You can set horizontal scale, indents and spacing. Here's where I told it I wanted the alignment to stay centered. But you could change that. I mean, if maybe you want it all right, and that's fine. And you see how it changed everything in my document. That's because these all have this paragraph style options body cap assigned to it. I'm going to put it back to center, and that's how it changes. But again, these tools that we're using can be put together to create these templates. So once you have your overall design put together, again, let me go back to the layers. If you don't see layers, you guys know, you just go up to Windows. I must have closed it on accident, and to layers, and that opens it back up. You can lock certain elements, like these small design elements here. I've got those locked. So, perhaps, I mean, if somebody's smart enough, they're going to know how to come in here and unlock these and play with them. But, you can keep them locked, and maybe that's to signify to other employees or whoever comes next that you don't want these elements being changed. So you could lock things down if you wanted to, or you can leave them unlocked. So once you have everything designed the way you want it, you can now take this and you can create a template. So you're going to go to File, Save As. And right here next to Format, it says InDesign 2023 document right now. That's okay, but we want to make it a template. And of course, you could change this. Mine's already labeled template design. I created that name from the original document, but you could change it to whatever you want. You can change it, let's say, monthly newsletter template. And I'm just going to drop it on my desktop because that's easier for me to find later. But the big thing to pay attention to is it changes the file type to an INDT, and that's an InDesign document template. And so now there's a template for somebody to use, and they can use this, each time. You're going to not, you want to save this file this way. And then when somebody goes to create a new one, they're going to do file, save as. And you notice here how the format changed back to a document. That's fine because we don't want to overwrite our template. We want to use that as the template. It's got to stay the same. But now you could change this instead of saying template, and maybe you could say November monthly newsletter. And then you would change that and save it. And then once you save it, now they're good to go in here and change this to whatever, boy, I can't spell November, to whatever they want it to say. And you can start making these changes. But again, everything inside this is going to stay the same. If the next user wants to come along and they want to change this image, then they're just going to click on this, and you got to make sure you got the links panel open, which I did not have open. You can come in here. Whoops. Sorry. You're going to right click. I apologize. It took me a second to figure that out. I wanted to double click it, but that's not correct. You want to right click on that and go to relink. And once that happens, you can pick an image that you want to drop in there and see how it popped that image right in there. And that's how you can start making these changes to this document, but keep the overall feel of it the way that you want it to look. The other benefit to creating a template is if this is going to be created for various companies, well, this may need to stay company name on the template. But if this information is never going to change down here, you could save yourself the trouble. And of course, you would need to do this on the template. I apologize because we're no longer on the template. We're actually making the monthly newsletter. But on the template, you could have changed this information to be whatever it was going to be permanently. So whatever is going to stay the same, you want to create that on the template, and that just saves you time. That automates this process. So you're not having to recreate the wheel every month. This is going to stay the same. You share it with other people or just for yourself, and move that process along quicker. I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you have any questions, you can follow up with me. Again, my name's Amanda Tatro, and my email is Mandy, MANDIEE, Tatro, TATRO @gmail.com. Thanks.